Welcome to Business Rockstars. I'm Pat O'Brien. Thanks for joining us. Our rock star today is Jesse Krieger, and he is the founder and publisher of Lifestyle Entrepreneurs Press, my kind of book publishing place, and welcome.
Thanks so much, Pat. It's an honor to be here.
Did you always want to be an entrepreneur?
Pretty much. I started out as a musician. I found my passion from a young age in electric guitar, and before you knew it, I was ditching school to play in rock bands, and actually that was the only thing that I was interested in from a young age. So it was through following that for many years that I wound up in Nashville starting a rock band, and ultimately getting to the point where we saw sort of this fork in the road. We could either like sign with a record label, but that didn't look very appealing. It looked like creating a job,
right?
Or, you know, actually starting our own record label. And that was my entree to entrepreneurship, was through that initial passion, through that love of music, and wanting to take our career into our own hands.
Well, how'd your record label do?
Well, we were the only act we ever signed, but it led us.
Well, then, you know how to find them.
Yeah. But at age 21, it was my first business, and it allowed us the opportunity to raise money, build a team, release our record, tour the country twice, put our music on hundreds of radio stations and MTV, all that good stuff. And I sort of saw the marriage between creativity and commerce.
What was the name of the band?
That was Krieger. My bandmate was Jake Harsh, and my last name, of course, being Krieger.
Why books?
Well, if you fast forward 10 years after being in a band, having that experience, you know, I'd founded or co-founded a number of companies in really diverse industries, and I found myself having trouble answering the question, you know, what do you do? And after selling a company,
why not just lie?
Why not just lie? I mean, I could make it up and like usually come up with a pretty compelling answer.
Yeah.
But I set about trying to solve that in writing my first book, Lifestyle Entrepreneur, which is really sort of looking back over 10 years of traveling, having businesses that really allowed the freedom to travel and pursue things I was interested and passionate about. Tried to figure out how I could give other people a template, a guide on how they could do that as well.
All right, we'll get to that in a minute. What was your first job?
My very first job at 16 was scooping ice cream at Dippin' Dots. And I also made the roasted almonds with like the pecan coating.
Did you start to hate the smell of ice cream?
I actually took the job to eat as much ice cream as I could, and then before you knew it, you know, I was like game over. I gained like 10 pounds. And
you went to Berkeley?
Later in life, yeah. At age 26, 27, I think, I transferred into Berkeley.
Right.
So after 3 businesses in and a whole music career, by the end of my 20s, I did everything that people would perhaps normally have done if they went in a linear fashion.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Everybody's on their own timetable. My favorite bookstore is in Berkeley, Moe's.
Oh, yeah?
I know Mo.
Nice.
And then Cody's, which is gone now.
Yeah.
But Moe's bookstore is iconic. I mean, it's a great bookstore.
Yeah.
And Mo, with the same sport coat he bought in 1963. And it smells like the same cigar that stands right there at the front. So your love of books, was it more of love of books or love of teaching people?
It's probably more a love of teaching people, and I see books as a great conduit to be like a way to convey information, to convey a decade plus of knowledge, experience, wisdom gained in a really easy format to hand off to somebody, for somebody to purchase on their own.
The first book you put out was?
Lifestyle Entrepreneur. Live your dreams, ignite your passions, and run your business from anywhere in the world.
Wouldn't we all like to do that? This is Business Rockstars. I'm Pat O'Brien. Our guest is Jesse Krieger, who is the founder and publisher of Lifestyle Entrepreneurs Press. There are so many self-help books now. Bookstores are giving entire walls to them. How did you think you could make a difference?
You're right, it's a huge market, especially here in the US, and I see that as a positive thing. I think there's a voracious readership for self-help books. I think the demand for self-help books is indicative of people's desire to improve their own lives. So, you know, by publishing and releasing a number of titles, most of which are targeted towards specific problems that we help people solve, specific goals we help people realize, I hope that in aggregate, we help move the needle for people and for our readers.
Every book title should be How to Be Happy. And you'd sell millions of those because that's all anybody really wants.
Before I called it a lifestyle entrepreneur, I thought about calling my book "How to Have Fun."
Right, exactly.
Really
How to be happy.
More accurate description of my 20s.
So what was the initial reaction to your company?
To the company?
Yeah. Corporate reaction, bookstores, that sort of thing.
The initial
it's a tough
reaction,
business.
Yeah, it is. It's one we're growing into. I mean, the first book that we published was a book called Get Paid for Your Pad, which has now become the #1 book for Airbnb hosts. And so we sort of rode the wave as Airbnb gained in popularity. We had the one of the best books, I think, that has been put out on this subject, and that opened up the doors to those authors meeting the CEO of Airbnb and being invited into their corporate headquarters. So out of the gate, we had a pretty good success. And I think that's a good thing because I might have changed directions or got interested in something else if there wasn't that initial bite in the market.
Are you like a traditional publishing company? Do you give advances? And
No, I consider us a hybrid in the sense that we really partner with our authors, help them develop the books, but also look beyond the book. How does that book play into building your business?
Can you get them placed
in
in bookstores?
Yeah. And we're expanding into full in-store distribution capability into 2017.
Can you get them placed in airport bookstores?
Yes, and that's a great question. I think airports are one of the most vibrant markets for book buyers. And
can you get them on the front table of the airport bookstore?
we will be able to. It's really just a question of how much you're willing to pay and how little you're willing to take per book, coupled with actually having the invitation to have a book placed there.
So what's the deal? You had no background in publishing or writing or anything?
I mean, I've always written. I've always been creative.
Right, but you had the music part, yeah.
But not in publishing directly. I think of myself coming into publishing as sort of from out of left field. Many people in the publishing industry probably don't even know who we are yet, but at 20 plus books in the market, many more coming, I see us as working with authors on an individual basis and helping them scope out.
Do the authors find you? There's a website, right?
Yeah, I mean, I do a lot of speaking. I'm out there in different capacities. I find most of our business now, over 50%, is people submitting manuscripts, referrals from existing authors, coupled with a big outbound push. I put a lot of free training out, a lot of resources for authors, and through that, people sort of get an idea of, oh, this seems like somebody I'd want to work with. Just make it easy to get in touch with us to open that conversation. You're
watching Business Rockstars. I'm Pat O'Brien. Our guest is Jesse Krieger, who runs the Lifestyle Entrepreneurs Press. And I guess the standard in all this is Hazleton Press, right?
Are they?
I think so, yeah.
I look at Morgan James, as a good barometer. And the founder of Morgan James, who published my book, has become sort of my publishing mentor.
Yeah, I was going to ask, who is your mentor?
Yeah, David Hancock. Shout out to David Hancock, the founder of Morgan James. Took me into their publishing family and has been a great resource and guide as I've started to grow our own.
Who's your favorite entrepreneur?
Well, that's a tough one. I mean, I'm impartial to Steve Jobs. We've had a Mac in our house since I was 4 years old, so I actually grew up with Apple, grew up in the Bay Area. Being around that whole story, I've followed it through most of my life.
Early ones, you had to put all the discs in.
Oh, yeah.
26 of them, I think.
I may be part of the first generation that grew up with a computer in the house. I remember the dial-up modem where it takes like 30 seconds to, yeah. Yeah.
I remember that sound. But anyway, so you had an early computer. Steve Jobs, who's pretty much everybody's, for creativity.
Certainly, and just the fact that now looking back, the most valuable company in the world, it didn't always look that way. So I guess I also looked to him and Wozniak, who went to Berkeley, who I got to see speak at a commencement address. Both very inspirational in terms of having an idea, being able to start something at a very small level and have the potential to impact people all over the world.
I actually heard Mario Savio speak.
Oh, yeah?
On the steps in Berkeley.
That's
the founder of free speech, by the way.
Free speech movement.
So when you first started, I mean, how did you know how many books to publish in that first book?
That's a good question.
There's always an economic part to this.
Yeah, now we're getting better about that, doing more pre-launch campaigns, really taking the pulse of the market as we're bringing a book to market. In the beginning, it's sort of hit and miss, but we have a pretty flexible printing and distribution capability, so we're never really in a position where we're printing thousands of books and then they're just sitting in a warehouse somewhere.
Right. What's the website?
LifestyleEntrepreneursPress.com.
LifestyleEntrepreneursPress.com. And what's on that website?
That's general information about our publishing company, links to each of our books, description of the service, the way in which we work with authors, which is a done-for-you publishing and book launch.
You are watching Business Rockstars. I'm Pat O'Brien. Jesse Krieger is our guest. We'll be back in a minute. Welcome back to Business Rockstars. I'm Pat O'Brien. Jesse Krieger is our guest. He's the founder and publisher of Lifestyle Entrepreneur Press. These aren't the only books you published, are they?
No, sir.
No.
Couldn't fit them all in my suitcase.
Well, that's a good thing. Get a Kindle.
Yeah.
Well, you can't show that. I'm just trying to think of when all this happened, because all of a sudden, I'm trying to think of what the first self-help book was. Listening to Prozac, or one of those way back then. The Bible, certainly. But now they're everywhere, and most of them are pretty good.
Some of them are. I mean, it's a big market. In the U.S. especially, there's a voracious readership for personal development, self-help books. I can't say I read all of them, but you know, there's some classics like Napoleon Hill and Dale
Napoleon
Carnegie
Hill is
that,
great.
Yeah.
Now, here we go. This is your book, Lifestyle Entrepreneur.
Yes.
You've read this one, right?
I wrote that one.
Okay. And Mind Lift, Mental Fitness for the Modern Mind.
Yeah, that one's about to drop.
And this one, Daniel Monroe,
Yeah.
just out.
Just about to come out. Yeah.
And what's this about? Nothing to Lose.
Nothing to Lose. That's the first part of a trilogy called the 3X Confidence series. And this first book is really about how to live like you have nothing to lose, how to take bold action, go after the things that you want in life, and do it unapologetically.
I love this title, F the Rules.
Yep.
It doesn't
I don't
say
know
F.
if we can get that one
Strength
on
from Within.
Yeah.
Good titles. And Forgiving Love. Shouldn't it be Forgiving Love?
It's actually a play on words.
Yeah.
Yeah. That author initially wrote the book Healing with Love around 20 years ago, Leonard Laskow.
I know that book.
Do you? Yeah.
I think the first one was Abraham Maslow.
Yeah.
That wrote about the 7 needs of a person. Anyway, so it's a huge business, and you're taking advantage of it. Are you making any money?
Yeah, we are, because we always take the view that the book isn't the primary revenue generator, right? It's one part of a broader business and brand. And you know, with each author, with each book that we publish, we look at how does that book play into their next 1 or 2 business development objectives. So whether that's filling seminar seats, having coaching clients, personal training, in the case of Strength from Within, always looking like uniquely with each author, how that book launch can feed into the next 6 to 12 months of business growth and getting the media opportunities, getting their name out there.
How important is it to publish again once you've written the book?
Like to do a second book? Well, I haven't, but I took the route of starting a publishing company.
Right.
You know, with some of our authors, we're on to the second books, and some of them are working on trilogies now. So, you know, I feel blessed to have long-term relationships with our authors, and that we're continuing to look further down the road.
Now, how do they find you? There's so many authors out there.
Some, honestly,
Authors.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the initial batch of authors sort of followed my success and my book with Lifestyle Entrepreneur, and now it's just become a mix. I do a lot of speaking, a lot of inbound referrals. I put a lot out there on the internet. I've done a lot with online marketing. So it's a mix of those things.
How much time do you spend on social media?
For business or pleasure?
For business.
Not a ton, maybe 3 to 4 hours a week. But we also have a team that handles some social media, and I think of more of creating great content and then pushing it out through those channels. So, like, forget a segment from Business Rockstars, right? We'll push that out through social media. Other videos that we create that I'm on, we use that just as a distribution channel Personally, I don't know. I check in a few times a day on Facebook.
Right. What's your pitch when you speak?
I say that, as a publishing company, we have a vision to elevate global consciousness through individual empowerment. And, our mission is to work with authors who have a bigger vision for their business and brand and to be their publishing partner and a strategic partner. Whereas a lot of publishers just have the view of, how can we sell more books? How can we sell more units? We're looking at how can we develop a long-term relationship? Almost like in the music space, you had A&R men, right?
Right.
I like to think of what I do as sort of authors and repertoire. Finding authors, working with their ideas, shaping them into a book, and then helping them launch that out.
Still A&R, right?
Right.
You're watching Business Rockstars. I'm Pat O'Brien. This is Jesse Krieger, and he's the founder and publisher of Lifestyle Entrepreneurs Press. You really kind of walked into a great career path here, because it seems like now more than ever, people want to change their lives, especially people in business, and empower themselves or empower others.
Absolutely. I mean, I resonate very strongly with that. It's most of our publishing focus is on personal development, entrepreneurship, giving resources to people that want to take steps to improve themselves, their life situation, and become entrepreneurs.
How many books, here's a guy who says he's a recovered meathead.
He has a unique approach to fitness, that one.
But how do you get this book out? I've never heard of this book, but I'd love to hear about it. How do you get this out?
That was actually an introduction from a friend of mine who, the author Eric Bakey, was working on this book, and it was in a rough form, a new approach to fitness, no weights, getting in the best shape of your life. So I talked to him. I actually started doing his workout regimen, and it changed my own experience of health and fitness. So I said, all right, there's something here. And from that point, we created illustrations, did a bunch of designs, and ultimately helped him start his personal training business.
How many one-arm push-ups can you do?
I can't do any. Those are extremely hard, but I'm working up to them.
So what's next for this company? I mean, you can survive for quite a while on these books, but what would you do next?
Well, we're going to expand pretty aggressively into in-store distribution. I have a vision to have a book on
Let
every
me tell
shelf.
you, I've had a book out, New York Times bestseller, and it was easy to get into books because I have a name and all this. But how do you get a book into a bookstore and get it placed right?
It's a combination of having the relationship with the distributors, with the book buyers, and having a marketing budget and having a good angle. And I think if they see
So by relationship, you mean budget?
Both, yeah,
Right.
mostly that. You got to have a budget.
Right.
The relationship helps. But I think if they see that there's a bigger push that's being done for the book and by the author themselves, that helps the story a lot.
It's such a complicated business because there's too many people depending on the other people, don't you think?
It can be convoluted. I try to keep it pretty simple. At this stage, I have a personal relationship with each of our authors. As we grow more, maybe that'll be less personal, less intimate, but I still see myself being very involved in each of the books.
I really wanted my book in the airport because that's where I buy a lot of my books. And now it's been in there for almost a year. And now I'm saying, get rid of it. I'm tired of looking at myself in the thing. And then you go
it
check.
It sells a lot of books, right?
It does. It did sell a lot of books. What's next for the company?
We're going to move more into in-store distribution and provide even more marketing support for our authors. I think with some of the books that we have coming out now, we've had success with pre-launch campaigns, doing crowdfunding, other interesting initiatives that help validate the audience, validate the market size for a book, even before we launch it.
All right. What, in your opinion, are the two things that every entrepreneur should do?
I think they should think big and take bold action. Make bold requests for the things that they want, because if somebody says no, you're in the same place you're in. If they say yes, you get a quantum leap forward.
Right.
And I think to reframe the view of what is failure. I mean, I try so many things that don't work, especially with book marketing, publishing in a fast-moving space. Not taking those personally is really integral
That's a big deal.
To moving forward quickly.
That's the main thing.
A lot of people get hung up on that.
Tell my son, who's in the music business, keep saying yes until someday you can say no.
That's great advice.
And maybe it's the title of a book. Jesse, thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Pat.
Great to have you on. I'm Pat O'Brien. This is Business Rockstars. We'll see you next time.